Mul on eriliselt hea meel sisse juhatada meie järgmine, viimane esineja, kuna ta on siia kohale lennanud just täna õhtuks Oslost. Jutt on siis Alf Howlidist, kes on arhitekt ja õpetanud Waldorf koolis, aga aastast 1998 töötab Norra arhitektuurikeskuses, kus ta on välja mõelnud arhitektuuri selgitava õppeprogrammi õpilastele ja õpetajatele. So I'm very happy to welcome you here, Alf.
So I'm happy to be here, and I'm very impressed that you are still sitting here after 1.5 hours. I have been working with architects, with schools, architecture problems in schools since '98, and we had a program in this Centre of Architecture in Oslo, because we've made quite a lot of new schools in the 15 years ago. It was a huge wave of schools coming up, like in Denmark and Sweden. So this discussion was very hot those days. Now it's not very hot anymore, but I can tell you that the movement from classroom school to open school now have gone back to classroom school. But not complete, but it's a question of money, because all the new schools are under pressure of being built as cheap as possible. So the big question is, how many square meters do you get? Because if you should try to change between different ways of educate, of teaching or learning, then you have to have more space. So it turns out to be very much of an economical question. And in this architecture question of what a good school is, we have to consider that 80% of the students go in old schools, and they will go in these old schools for another 20, 30 years. So the problem is, what are we doing with the old schools? That's a very, very challenging question, but it's not my topic today. I have been working with the curriculum in the Norwegian schools, because we have had architecture as a curriculum part for many years, since the mid-90s, and still we are in a situation that the teachers, they really don't know what to do. Neither do the architects, because teaching of architecture for children is a really difficult thing, and it's not only difficult to teach, but it's difficult to find out what to teach. What in architecture is good to teach? What in architecture is good for children? What do they need for their growth? And does architecture has something to offer? Of course, it is important. Architecture is important, but why is architecture important for young people? And what in architecture is important? That is, I think that is a difficult question. And the building trade, the architects and the building trade, they are not interested in children normally. So, and there has been very few connections between architects and school and teachers. It's very different from music, from painting, from sculpture, where there has been quite a lot of connection between the school and the professions. But the architects have been away, always. And it has hardly been discussed within the architecture field what is good to teach for children. What in architecture is really good? So you have to at least consider that if you shall take something to bring to the children, It has to be important for them. It has to really be something which they need. And then you have to take into consideration what age is it. And it's quite obvious that the young ones, they need something more activity, and the older ones, they can deal with urban structures, politics, ethics, things like that. But the really difficult period is the young people, the adolescents, the children between 13, 14 and 16, 17. And this age is also the difficult age for the school in general. The challenge is there. And if you go to this work and you say that to the children or to the young people, what we are going to work with is important and you will need it when you are grown up, there's a very good chance that you fail in your pedagogy, because you have to do something which they recognize as something which really enthusiasts them. They need to be touched in a way that they are using their forces. Because one of the main problems in school today is that the children or the young people, they don't really use their forces. They're just passing through the school. It's at least that is in Norway. But so when you present something for the children, you have to find something which really is good stuff. And then you have to find out what is that. Then there is, why is architecture important in school? Why is it important to have it there? One thing is that in the future, we have to rebuild everything which is constructed, because of really to survive in the common society which needs sustainability all over. That means that very many people in the future, these young people, when they're grown up, they have to take part in rebuilding everything. And they have to elect decision makers who really feel the rebuilding and restructuring the society to avoid the climate crisis. So this has to be a hard question, because it will be complicated, it will be costly, it will cost a lot of money, and you need to go into this with quite a big effort. So that is one thing why architecture is important. And the other thing is, if architecture has something to offer to the children in their growth, if it has, then it's also important in that respect. So I will show you some pictures of what we are doing when we are meeting these young people coming to our center. And I have been working with a pedagogy which is workshop-based, big dimensions, constructions, children taking part in the constructions with their bodies. I use this. You see, this is very, very simple, but it's dealing with big materials, with statics, and when bodies are taking part. And you see, there is something which is happening when you go from the small scale to the big scale. When you are in the small scale, a model, then it might be a representing architecture, but still it's an abstract. Still it's something not real. And to really to give this abstract something which could be some sort of experience, which it could be some sort of profound knowledge, then you have to have some knowledge before. You have to have references. You have to really some insight in what is really going on to let a model make sense. But when you enlarge it so the scale is bigger, suddenly it comes up to a point where where it is something which you can experience. This is not. This is a bit strange because this is well, you can't have stones, really stones, but you have something which is similar and it's big, and when it's a bit similar and it's a bit big, then it's something really it's really happening, and this is fun, even if you don't say anything about Roman arches. And we need some new batteries also here. Okay, so this is a very, very simple exercise where we test the Roman arch, and then I tell them the story about Brunelleschi working with the cupola in Firenze, and then they find that we experiment with using stretching forces in big scale, which is one of the most revolutionary buildings ever built. So and here you see there is a point that when you are many, and this is so big that you need to be many people to carry out an experience, then something else is happening, because now there is, you don't even have to say that architecture is something which is happening when different elements work together. And this is something which you can't do in your laptop, and you can't do it alone. You have to do it in cooperation with others. And also here, you can experience in your body, in your bones, the pressure forces in the stones in a Gothic cathedral. And also here, there is a tremendous change from going from a small model and going up to a size which is real, which is something you can test, which is something you can use the forces. Then it is an experience which is, well, when you have done that, you never forget it. And here you see, when you use the big scale, then there is something happening in between, where you can, in between the students, where you can either be inside or outside. There is a piece of architecture coming up in itself, and still there is a representation of some important architecture in history. So this is a way of building of experience the forces in the Eiffel Tower. And this is a construction where you see you need 20, 25 people to carry out the whole thing. And now this is the construction of a Mongolian yurt, and I tell the story and about the yurt, and we do the experimentation here, and so yeah, this is the last thing. So. It is a question of finding where are these children in their growth. And when I was working with this, I found out that my education as an architect and my discussions with other architects of what is really the important thing of teaching in architecture, the quality of architecture, the quality of space, the quality of rooming, and how the space will work in a way to the people living using these rooms, and that is a very difficult thing to teach young people. And for the 15, 16, 17, 15, 16-year-olds, well, it's not worthwhile. They will struggle with the forces. They will make the rooms. They will experience how the construction is. That is far more interesting, far more grasping their interests more than the aesthetics. My experience is that when they are in the last year, 18, 19 years old, when they starting to come to a point of goodwill, that they really can work with you, not only confront you, but work with you, then you can start to confront these and to address these difficult things, which is the quality of architecture. And then you have the field of political, all the urbanism things, all the big aspects of architecture. But in this period, when they are here, you have to really to meet them where they are. And in these years, the bones, the skeleton grow faster than the muscles. So they will be a bit clumsy. In a way, they are under construction. So you have probably heard this slogan that it's like they are wearing a sign which says closed under construction. So then we meet them in the constructive field of tension and pressure. So that was that.
Thank you. Do we have any questions in the audience? Te võite eesti keeles ka küsida, ma võin tõlkida. Maybe I'll just start off with a simple or not so simple one. What made you become an architect?
Yeah, it's difficult. Because when I was finished architect, after these 5 years plus the diploma, then I knew that I would be a teacher. I very, very fast went out of architecture and into teaching. So I was a teacher at the Waldorf School for 18 years, and then I did some architecture some years in between, but then I went to the Centre of Architecture and Design in Oslo because we started a program in 1998 with school and architecture, so then I went back. But originally I quit. But why did I? There is an interesting thing happening in young people's lives. That is, when you probably will remember that when you were 9 in the school, 9, 10, you realized that there were only 2 or 3 pupils who can draw. I cannot. Most of the people say to themselves, I cannot draw. He can draw, she can draw, and he can draw, but I cannot. And then they quit drawing. So normally people don't draw. But those few, in a way, draw. Some of them will be architects. Because they know it, in a way. But I really don't know. I really don't know. My parents were architects.
Thank you for the very inspiring lecture. I had a question about, but you almost answered, but I still want to ask it. You told that the architecture's been away from the school, and other disciplines are much more integrated into the curriculum. And the situation is kind of, you tried to change, as we tried to change it here as well, and describe the reason. Maybe it's why it is important. But could I ask your opinion, why it's been this way? What is why it's now this different, or why it's been away from the curriculum before? And my second question is very practical. For how many students do you offer these lectures? And
at the time?
Yes, at the time, yes.
Well, a good number is 30. A good number is 30. So then everyone could be active within 1.5 hours. And well, I have courses with teachers, courses with the students. Well, 30 would be nice. But the problem with the curriculum, architecture in the curriculum, is that it's a new topic, very new. And so, I mean, it's a short history, so it's not very strange that architects so far haven't been interested in what's going on in the schools. That's not very strange. The other, well, music, drawing, the other arts, field of arts, they have been there always. So they are integrated in a way. And then now, when it's, but I think now it's not even, it hasn't changed much. I would say that in these architect schools, the students, well, they want to be good architects. They want to be world masters, something like that, and so they are heading towards building and working with different things. So they're not, well, then it's not strange that their interest is not directed to the schools. What's going on in the lower classes. It's not strange, but it is even more important that the teachers get in contact with architects so that the teachers could be skilled in teaching, in working with architecture. But then it's a we have quite a lot of work to do, because it's not obvious what to do in different ages. It's not obvious at all. And I think that, well, very many places in Europe, they work with city planning or city, some sort of modeling, city planning. I think that's a problematic field, because cities don't grow like that. They have never done. City planning is not like that. It's so when you do a pedagogy with working with city planning, you really have to argue, why do you do that? What it is good for? What is good? So we have quite a lot of work to do. It's a trying and failing period. And it's also architecture is also a very difficult to grasp because it's so wide. It's so wide, and really knowledge of architecture is not something which you can teach directly or learn directly. You have to do several things during the years, and after working with several fields for many years, something is waking up. Some knowledge is emerging from all these different kinds of work. It's like the topic ecology. It's very difficult to teach ecology. You can teach biology, you can teach about trees and fields and animals and sun and rain, and you can work with the elements, and then some sort of consciousness for ecology, for the ecology is emerging. But and it's something like something is the same in the field of architecture.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.